I started having the sex talk when they were 13 or 14, found out they'd been addicted to pornography for the last 4 years. What do I do now? You're on a race with the devil to get to your kids first.
This really does break me in a personal way that I did not have these conversations that I should have had with my kids in early parenting. Just the curiosity of a child is going to lead them down a dark path if we are not willing to be having these conversations early on.
Do you know, beyond the shadow of a doubt, that if your child was exposed to hardcore pornography or was solicited in any way, that they can come and talk to you and would immediately do so? If you can't say yes, no matter how old your child is, then that's where you're not giving them the defense. It is not if they're exposed. It is when they're exposed. Someone came and asked me to make curriculum for their 10-year-old who was addicted to pornography, and I said, I'm done. I'm not making more curriculum for younger children. We have to get mom and dad in the fight.
What would you say are the top 3 mistakes that you would want parents to avoid?
Top 1 mistake, the lie. I still have time.
Holy moly.
How should they begin? Early and often. In a perfect world.
I mean, can we just stop there? Like, ouch.
God made it. It's all in the Bible. It's beautiful. There is no reason we can't talk about it. There was a little girl being babysat by her older cousin. And when that would happen and the parents would come home, she would say, I don't like it when John pokes me with his stick. And all the parents thought for years was they were playing in the backyard with sticks. But they didn't give their daughter the defense, simple word, penis. And if that little girl had said, I don't like it when John pokes me with his penis, it would have changed everything.
At what age do you believe a parent should be explaining anatomically what actually happens in the act of sex? Thanks so much for watching the podcast. I recently learned that out of all of my viewers, only 15% of you have actually taken the time to subscribe to my YouTube channel. So if you would please subscribe by clicking that bell, it costs you nothing, and it's an easy way to support the podcast and ensure that I am always able to bring you the best podcast guests possible. Thanks so much. Hello and welcome to the Elizabeth Johnston podcast. Sex is everywhere, and the silence from the church has been deafening. My guest, Nick Liberto, is breaking that silence. He is equipping men, women, and families to have this conversation that no one really wants to have, but that everyone knows is very important. He leads the Sex Talk, a movement to reclaim sexuality from shame and confusion. Whether you're a parent, a pastor, or a young person trying to navigate this constant sex-filled culture, this conversation is going to be powerful and is for you. Nick, welcome to the podcast today.
I'm honored to be here, Elizabeth. You really hit the nail on the head. Nobody wants to have this conversation, but everybody needs to have this conversation. So I'm excited to dive in with you.
Yes, it's very important. And as a mother of 10 children, I will freely confess that this is one that I have really struggled with. So I am personally looking forward to it. And I have been navigating the website, the Sex Talk website, and it is truly a blessing to the body of Christ. It is filled with tools that my audience is going to want to have. So let's start right where it gets uncomfortable. What is the most shocking or heartbreaking thing that you have seen in young people's views on sex today?
Oh, the young people's views on sex is it's sex is a commodity. The human body is a commodity to be consumed. Average age of hardcore pornography exposure is now 8 years old. You know, we remember the sex talk being something you had for like an hour in a car, and it was awkward if you were lucky enough to get one talk, and then it was birds and the bees, and you were 14, 15, or 16. But with average age of exposure now is 8 years old, parents need to be equipping their children, preparing their children, giving them a defense. The sex talk is not a talk because the world is so sexualized.
It's got to be a conversation, an ongoing conversation,
Absolutely.
clearly. You often talk about how porn is discipling our children. How you've mentioned that it's starting at 8 years old. What are the real world consequences to this new sexualized world that even 8-year-olds are now encountering?
Yeah, the problem is that Google, pornography, the internet, and their friends are the sex educators for our young children. And so the consequence is that children are addicted to pornography at younger and younger ages. Divorce rates are up, and pornography is such a theme in the divorce.
Mm,
There is infidelity. We see it even in the
yeah.
church. Unfortunately, sexual brokenness is rampant. And so it's very obvious that the church does not look different than the world, but we want
Mm,
her to. And that's the point. What Jesus did with his naked body on a cross informs what we can do with our naked bodies.
mm.
And God made sex. The enemy wants to twist it and warp it. And when the church and when parents don't talk about it, guess what? It's the enemy's territory, and he gets to speak all those lies into our children.
That's so true. And you mentioned that the church and the world don't look very different. I actually think it might be worse than that. I think that because, we understand that sex outside of biblical marriage is sin, then I think because of the shame that we allow to be around the conversation of sex, that we actually are doing worse at equipping our children for this culture. Would you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, it is this stigmatized,
Hmm.
shameful, taboo thing that I don't know where and why this happened, but
Hmm.
Christians are afraid to go near it. But we should be destigmatizing this. My children at the age of 3, 4, and 5 know
Mm.
anatomical, biological terms. They know the words penis and vagina. They know how God made man and how God made woman. And
Hmm.
like, we're making these conversations normal. So it's not awkward. It's not weird. And again, that's just with a 4-year-old. What we are encouraging parents to do is you're on a race with the devil to get to your kids first. The problem
Mm.
is, so many parents, I have countless stories of moms saying, I started having the sex talk when they were 13 or 14, found out they'd been addicted to pornography for the last 4 years. What do I do now? It's like, I
Right.
don't want that story for your children.
Yeah, exactly. Now, you mentioned something about kids being introduced to pornography from their friends. Is there anything a parent can do? That feels very helpless.
Hmm.
I mean, I can control what my child watches on TV. I can control what kind of phone my child has if they even have a phone. Um, I can make sure that there's no internet attached to that, and I can have all the guardrails on my devices in my home. What can a parent do about other children with their unprotected phones showing your child pornography? Are you tired of turning on the TV and feeling like everything you don't believe is being pushed on you? Same here. That's why I joined Angel Studios Angel Guild, and I want you to be a part of it too. This isn't just another streaming platform. When you become an Angel Guild member, you don't just watch, we actually get to vote on which movies and shows get made. It's like having a front row seat to change the entertainment industry from the inside. For as little as $20 a month, you get to vote on movies, stream ad-free, and you get 2 free movie tickets for every Angel theatrical release. If you're tired of the garbage entertainment that fights against your family's values and you want to build something better, this is your chance. Join me and thousands of others in the Angel Guild. Let's put our dollars where our values are and change what's being made for our families. Go to angel.com/Elizabeth and let's support family-friendly and biblical entertainment. That's angel.com/Elizabeth. What can a parent do about other children with their unprotected phones showing your child pornography?
Amazing question. And it is all about giving your child the defense and the
Mm.
tools for when it happens. So at thesextalk.com, we have this universal saying, and I love this question for parents. And if you're listening right now, I want you to imagine putting this question on. And the question is, do you know beyond the shadow of a doubt that if your child was exposed to hardcore pornography or was solicited in any way, that they can come and talk to you and would immediately do so? If you can't say yes, no matter
Yeah.
how old your child is, then that's where you're not giving them the defense. It is not if they're exposed, it is when they're exposed. So, like in the
Mm.
course, my favorite example, one of our course experts, Matt Fradd, gives a definition that parents can use for pornography with young children. And it goes something like this: If you ever see images or pictures or videos of men and women where parts of their bodies are showing that a bathing suit would normally cover, I
Right.
want you to come and tell me right away, and I'm going to be so proud that you did. You
Yeah.
have just prepared your child for when it happens, because it will happen. And the number one thing you want to do is you want them to know, I can go talk to mom. I can go
Yeah.
talk to dad. I can say, hey, I saw this thing today and it made me feel uncomfortable. Like,
Yeah.
you want to create that narrative at the earliest age possible for your children.
Right. And that conversation is happening as early as 4 years old.
Hmm. Yes, ma'am.
Right.
We
And then
encourage
the
parents to start.
conversation
Yeah.
changes,
Hmm.
obviously, as the child develops.
Yeah, so age appropriate conversations from 5 to 16 plus years old. Every child is different. Every maturity is different. We work with some parents and they're in a broken home, and when they're at dad's house, it's very
Mm.
different than when they're at mom's
Yeah.
house. If your child is in public school, so much different
So
than if
different.
you're homeschooling your children
Yeah.
and they're growing up on a farm. But what we say is, you just need to get there first. The power of first mention, my friend Drew
Mm.
Boa has coined, and I love that, because
Mm.
no matter what the topic is, you want to be the first one to bring it up in your child's mind.
Yeah, I love that. Now, do you have some kind of personal backstory that made you passionate about being a part of this amazing program where you are educating and equipping parents on how to have the sex talk with their kids?
Yes, amazing question. And sadly, yes, I am the executive director of Proven Ministries. We are a sexual integrity, faith based nonprofit, and you don't end up as the executive director of a purity ministry without my story of 15, 20 years of sexual debauchery and how
Mm.
God redeemed and restored my life to the amazing glory that He gets all the glory for that.
Yeah.
And people kept asking us to make curriculum for younger and younger children. And we have
Mm.
curriculum for men struggling, for women struggling, for wives whose husbands are struggling. But we didn't have anything for teenagers, for 11-year-olds. Someone came and asked me to make curriculum for their 10-year-old who was addicted to pornography. And I said, I'm done. I'm not
Mm.
making more curriculum for younger children. We have to get mom and dad in the fight. And so we
Mm.
spent 3 years and many hundreds of thousands of dollars building the sextalk.com as our primary preventative resource for moms and dads,
Mm.
because then your children don't have to show up at my doorstep 15
Right.
years later in marriage thinking marriage was going to fix all the problems and it was going to be all amazing now. And so
Yeah.
we're so excited about the sex talk because we want moms and dads to become the primary sex educators for their children.
Yes, that's so good. I mean, you're really going to the root of the problem in a lot of ways, which is that we are not preparing our children for what they are going to be encountering in
Hmm.
life. Um, may I ask, going back to your own personal
Hmm.
story, how did you get free from the grip of sexual sin?
Yeah, so I grew up, I'm a millennial, grew up, and I remember the snap the rubber band on your wrist if you have a bad thought, and the true love waits rings, and
Yeah.
things of that nature. And so my freedom journey, I say, was the definition of insanity, which is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So I don't want to hijack the whole podcast here because I love talking about my story, but moments were happening where I was like, okay, God, I never stopped loving you. I never stopped believing in you, but I'm going to finally start listening to you. So I'm going
Mm.
to stop having sex with my partners because you tell me not to. And I've been doing this over and over and over again. Why should I expect a different result? And I'm going to stop consuming pornography, and I'm going to attach myself within the church to accountability, to
Mm.
brothers,
Mm.
to confess your sins to one another and pray with
Yeah.
one another so that you may be healed, as it says in James. And so it was like a slow crawl from the pit, without a guide, without a narrative, without
Mhm.
a map, which is why I'm so passionate about my work, because I will never, if I can help it, there will never be a reality where someone doesn't have a map, a hand to reach out to,
Yeah.
a guide. Here, we're going in this direction, which is why we call it the proven path for Proven Ministries. And so my journey was 15 years of the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, finally
Yeah.
deciding to commit to living as God commands. My wife is such a cool part of this miraculous story, as God always loves to do, and she was a missionary in England, and I was like,
Mm.
uh, you know I had never been in a relationship where somebody wanted to pursue purity as much as I did. So like there was another gift from the Lord in that. Anyway, it's a beautiful story of
Yeah.
how and where I find myself now. But man, what gets me out of bed in the morning is
Mm.
how can I help my children,
Yeah.
your children, and anybody's children from I don't want them to have my story.
Right. And
That is to win.
you have created this map that you're
Mhm.
referring to. You're creating the map to have this sex talk and ongoing conversation with your children. So, how should a parent begin a conversation about sex with their child? And then, like, what would you say are the top 3 mistakes that you would want parents to avoid? Is your family prepared? Gain peace of mind with a long term supply of medications and easy online access to medical experts for emergency preparedness. I love my Jase case. The doctors at Jase can hook you up with antibiotics, an EpiPen, inhalers, ivermectin. They have so many amazing medications that you can order in your Jase case. Go to jase.com today and use code Elizabeth. You get 20% off by using my discount code, and you are going to love the peace of mind of knowing that you have those items there for you or for your children in an emergency. What would you say are the top 3 mistakes that you would want parents to avoid?
How should they begin? And then I'll do top 3 mistakes. How
Yeah.
should they begin? Early and often. In a
Ooh,
perfect
I
world.
mean, can we just stop there? Like, ouch. Like,
Yes, exactly. So in a
you got
perfect
me
world,
there. You
I'm
got me
talking
there.
to a family, a parent, a mom, a dad, and you have a 4-year-old, and you have a
Mhm.
5-year-old, and you have a 6-year-old. Oh my goodness, you're at the perfect spot. Sometimes,
Yes.
unfortunately, you're starting at 10, you're starting at 11, you're starting at 12, and you have to play catch up. And
Yeah.
so best way to start is just early and often try and normalize the conversation. You can find ways to talk about it everywhere, sadly,
Yeah.
because it's already everywhere. So like
Right.
my children are watching a commercial and I have to pause and talk to them about it. Like Hulu commercials are the devil right now. And like
Mm.
any other reality, you just have to be on the lookout for that. And then top 3 mistakes. I know the top one mistake, and we could explore what the other two are, but the top one mistake is the lie. I still have time. I still have time.
Mm.
I still have time.
Phew.
You don't.
Yeah.
I promise.
Yeah.
Seeds have been planted by the enemy,
Mhm.
and those seeds will grow. And
Yeah.
if you are the first one to get there, if you've destigmatized it, if you've normalized it, if you've become the safe place about all things sex and sexuality, the enemy
Right.
cannot plant seeds that will grow.
Yeah, that's so good. Just the other day, I was surprised. I had some of my kids' friends over at my house, and I was surprised to see that one of my children's friends had an iPhone. And we use Gabb phones
Mhm.
in my family. That's all I'm going to provide for them. And that's only once they're like 12 or 13, if
Amazing.
that, depending on their
Uh-huh.
maturity, and what they have doesn't have internet on it or social media. And so, and then when they're 18, they can, buy whatever phone, and hopefully they are mature enough in the Lord to make wise decisions. But I was surprised that this younger child of mine, his friend, had an iPhone. And I just, in passing, this kid loves me. Like we have a great relationship. And in passing in the kitchen, I was kind of asking him some questions about his phone and, what kind of restrictions his mom had on it. And I was really shocked that he seemed to indicate that there were no restrictions. And I was like, holy moly. Like, and then I'm concerned for my son because I mean, that was
Exactly.
my mind just immediately went to my son. And like, is there any way my son has seen something from his friend's phone? And I did talk with him about it afterwards, a few days after, I broached the subject with him, and he reassured me that that had not happened. But what you're saying is, being aggressive in the beginning of having this conversation in such a like nonchalant, chill way with a
Mhm.
4-year-old, a 3-year-old. I mean, not only are you preparing them for sexual purity, but you're also preparing them to speak up and have a voice in case they are encountering an abusive situation.
Correct.
A child that is being groomed will
Mm-hmm.
understand when they hear that mom said, if anyone ever shows you someone's body parts that are covered by a bathing suit, or tries to touch you in the areas that are covered by a bathing suit, that child knows that you are the safe place to come to. You've already had 10 conversations about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, but that's very convicting, because I have not done well on this. And I just have to say, like, shout out for your website. It is so well done, just very high quality. And the different, you go through these different like modules. Am I describing it correctly? It's kind of
Absolutely.
like modules you go through. It's not really time consuming. It really isn't. And it can save you from a boatload of time consuming trauma that you might go through with your child, if you do not avail yourself of the map that you guys have provided. What are some other mistakes
Some other
that parents should avoid?
mistakes. They are afraid of overexposing or introducing lust to their children, but kind of like I described early on,
Yeah.
the if you do it in age appropriate and mature ways as your child grows up, like that is not a reality. We already gave you the definition of pornography. You haven't harmed your child or ignited lust in them in any way. Like
Yeah.
a lot of the mistakes come back to the I still have time or I'm afraid to go here. They're fear-based mistakes. They're mistakes that keep you on your heels as a parent rather than on your toes, leaning in.
Mm.
And, back to the whole parents are afraid of exposing their children too early. God made it. It's all in the Bible. It's beautiful. There is no reason we can't talk about it.
Mm.
One of the analogies in the course we talk about is, and it's a little bit cliche, but it's so perfect. Fire and sex are so similar. Fire is beautiful. God made fire. It keeps everybody warm. It keeps us alive. It is the reason our society is where it is today. When the
Mm.
fire's not in the fireplace, people die. And it's like this, you could begin to converse about this with your children.
Mhm.
There's another, story. It's a horror story in the sextalk.com course where the one of our experts talks about giving your children a defense. And you brought up sexual abuse, which God forbid, the statistics are off the chart. And
Yeah.
we want to protect our children. There was a little girl being babysat by her older cousin. And when that would happen and the parents would come home, she would say, I don't like it when John pokes me with his stick. And
Mm.
all the parents thought for years was they were playing in the backyard with
Yeah.
sticks. But they didn't give their daughter the defense, simple word, penis.
Mm.
Simple word, vagina. And if that little girl had said, I don't like it when John pokes me with his penis, it would have changed everything.
Mm.
And so we want to come alongside of our children as coaches, as protectors, as equippers, because doing nothing, like it's literally everywhere.
Yeah.
YouTube Kids, the amount of emails I get from parents who are like, I let my child on YouTube Kids, and oh my
Yep.
goodness, the thumbnails there are inappropriate. So you
Right.
can't lock your children in a closet as much as I wish you could.
We
You
can't.
got to prepare them.
Right. At what age do you believe a parent should be explaining anatomically what actually happens in the act of sex?
Yeah, so what we see, our course is not prescriptive, back to that whole maturity, right? Like you could be in public school at 12, and guess what? You might need to know about the act of sex and intercourse
Yeah.
at that time. So your age appropriate conversations that start around the age of five or six will continue, and there's going to
Hmm.
be a big spike conversation that's super intentional, like you just described, when you determine that your child's maturity is ready to
Hmm.
receive the understanding about where babies come from and how babies are made and how God made man and women to have sex and what intercourse is and what that's all about. I have some parents that do it at 11 or 12. I have other parents that do it at 14 or 15. But again, by the way, you're not done. You just
Right.
introduced the idea. The sex
Yeah.
talk continues to when they start having their first girlfriend or boyfriend, when they start dating, when they're engaged. Can you imagine the sex talk being so beautiful and
Mm,
robust that parents are having it with their children before they get married? Because you're lucky if you get a talk at all in
yeah,
premarital, and you're just supposed to have it figured out in marriage. And what does sex look
right.
like after having a baby? And what does sex look like after being married for 10
Mm,
years? And like, you could be discipling your children, sexual discipleship in this way, God ordained, all the
mm.
way until marriage and maybe even beyond. The sex talk is not just one awkward talk at 13.
Yes. A- And just today, I had a child um, text me about a person. I'm going to be very careful. I don't reveal who this is. A person that they are interested
Hmm.
in having further conversation about a possible, relationship.
Hmm.
And it was so beautiful that this child wanted to pull me into it. They
Amen.
wanted to get my thoughts, wanted to know what would be the best way to navigate this. And that
Amen.
meant so much to me. It was really, a beautiful win moment that I had already had so many conversations with this particular child about relationships and about dating and what's healthy and what's unhealthy. We've had so many conversations already that they did not want to step foot into a dating relationship without first pulling me into it and getting my wisdom and my thoughts on it. So, what you're saying is so important because you're saying this isn't one talk. This is a lifestyle, it's an ongoing conversation, and it doesn't just affect um, whether your child gets exposed to pornography, whether they get addicted to pornography. It doesn't just affect whether they know, how to have sex or whatever. We all know they're all going to know that. It really affects a lot, and it affects their relationship with you, whether you are the trusted person that they come to on so many other things as well. And so, yeah, I
Yeah,
don't
I
know
mean,
where to go from
can
there.
you imagine, Elizabeth, if the church and Christians became known as the number one people having the best sex, the
Mm,
place to go to learn about sex, because it's
yeah,
ours. God made it. The world
right.
doesn't get it. And for our children to understand it in the beginning and then carry it into marriage, like, we are all sitting here because of sex, because of
Right.
God beautiful gift. And I do have a heart for young couples, because a lot of our work with proven men and proven women, they think marriage is this, what Hollywood and Disney makes it seem to be.
It's never been worse.
It's
Never been
never been
worse.
worse.
Yeah.
And for moms and dads to even have such discipleship as they're discipling their children and sending them off into the home to
Yeah.
be kingdom emissaries, right? Like,
Right.
you're just coming alongside of them. And I want to applaud you for your child reaching out to you, because that is like the win. That is the goal. And so, amen, and keep on going. Can
Mm.
you imagine if every parent and every
Yeah.
child today has that as the norm? We'll change a
Right.
generation.
Yeah. My problem though is that, yeah, I haven't started early enough. So that was something that as I was navigating sextalk.com, is that right?
Thesextalk.com. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thesextalk.com. As I was navigating the website, I was like, oh gosh, I was convicted and realized that, I have talked with my younger children in a way that would protect them from abuse. That's normally
Hmm.
my thought process
Yeah.
is I want them to know what to do and to feel safe to come to me if they were ever in like a molestation situation.
Yeah.
But I could see holes in my
Hmm.
parenting in this area that I want to make sure that I do better at, and I wanted my audience to benefit from this as well. What is your prayer for the next generation of men and women growing up in this unfortunately hypersexualized culture?
If I could wave a magic wand and get one miracle from the Lord, it would be that every child would grow up in a home having age-appropriate, biblically based sex talks with their parents, because I wouldn't have a job anymore, and I would love for that to be the reality we
Yeah.
wake up in.
Yeah. My older kids, I have, gone through things with them. Obviously, just because I'm a mom in a family where I raise my kids to fear the Lord and we're a homeschool
Mhm.
family, we have encountered these things, pornography, and I unfortunately can see where in the early days of parenting, it was because this conversation was just taboo. It was
Mhm.
not addressed, it was not comfortable. And just the curiosity of a child
Mhm.
is going to lead them down a dark path if we are not willing to be having these conversations early on. So, this really does, break me in a personal way that I did not have these conversations that I should have had with my kids in early parenting. And it did affect my children. And so I am passionate about this as well, and really blessed that I'm able to pass this on to others today through my podcast. Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you think is important for us to highlight as we, in this podcast, really want parents to leave with a better understanding of how urgent this is and how important this is? It has never been more important that we protect our children from the dangers of smartphones. And that is why I am completely obsessed as a parent with Gabb wireless products. For about 5 years now, I have been using Gabb watches and Gabb phones for my children, depending on what age they are. These watches have no pornography, no addictive games, no social media, no internet. It allows you to stay connected to your child. You can make phone calls, take pictures, send each other pictures, but there is no internet, no social media. I tell parents all the time about Gabb wireless phones and watches. Go to gabbwireless.com and use code Elizabeth to purchase a phone or a watch for your child today. Really want parents to leave with a better understanding of how urgent this is and how important this is.
Yeah, I mean, you teed it up perfectly, because the God of the universe is with us in this. He's with you in this. And so he takes our effort and our 100% and he makes it 300%. And so, like, in this journey and in this process, you're never too late. You're still good. There are parents listening that have a 15-year-old and a 16-year-old and they haven't started. That's okay. You're not broken. You can still begin now. It's never
Yeah,
too late. And that's the
right.
last thing I want to say. Like, in a perfect world, you have a 5-year-old and you can begin today. But if
Yeah,
you have a 15-year-old, a 16-year-old, if you feel that there might be some holes, that you want to double click on some things, like, you're not too late, because our God is that good and he is that big. And
totally.
so lean in. If you need help with the sextalk.com, we literally took 24 years of sexual integrity ministry and all the secrets we could find and made the closest thing to an easy button for the sex talk for parents. That would be
Yeah.
my encouragement.
Yeah, it's true. It really is true. What would you say to the parent who has not started early and they do have the 16-year-old that is addicted to pornography? Like, can you talk to that parent right now? Like, really
100%.
practically talk to them about what to
100%.
do.
Yeah, so in the course we address this, and Matt Fradd also covers this topic. It's so beautiful. It's so
Mhm.
perfect. You lean in and you start the conversation with, "I'm sorry. I wanted to do more. I felt like I should have done a little bit better. You may have already been exposed to things. And this is going to be a little bit awkward because we're starting a little bit late, but I want you to know that I'm here, that
Yeah.
I'm leaning in, that I'm going to be your number one go-to person for everything around this, because I am ahead of you on the journey as a mom,
Mhm.
as a dad. And so it's that simple. You rip that
Right.
Band-Aid off. It will be a little bit more awkward, but that's okay. Guess what? Nowhere do I wish this was true, that the job of parenting was easy.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's not in the cards. but
Right.
it's the best, most fulfilling job in the world. And I also like to encourage parents to use the motivation. You might be a dad who is struggling with pornography. You might be a woman who has trauma in her past. Like, you want to protect your children from those
Hmm.
stories, from
Yeah.
those things. So maybe you're not perfect. Maybe you don't feel like you're ready, but you can give them the gift of not having that. And that's always been a
Yes.
huge motivation as well.
And also, we cannot entrust this job to the church.
Correct.
We are the parents. God has given us these children. He did not give your child to your pastor. It is not his duty, it is not his responsibility to parent your child and to fix this issue for you. And
Mm-hmm.
I have heard, I've had several moms come to me and just like express disappointment that the men in the church weren't doing their job or their pastor was not spending enough time with their child. And I'm thinking, like, what kind of superhuman do you expect your pastor to be? Honestly, like, this, your child is yours, entrusted to you to
Mm-hmm.
steward, and has
Mm-hmm.
been given to you on loan by God.
Exactly.
And so we need to take this mission seriously. Our children are our ministry. And so, yeah, make no excuses for the fact, like you said, admit, I'm sorry. I dropped the ball here and I'm not going to drop it moving forward. I'm
Mm-hmm.
here for you. And no matter how awkward the question is, I want you to be able to come to me. And maybe you're rolling your eyes in your mind right now and you're thinking, my child will never do that. You know what? I've started late too. And my kids have come to me afterward with the conversations that I thought I would never have with them. And so I do want to second what Nick is saying, that it's not too late and you can become your child's go-to person. And if you don't want to be that person, then I would say it's time for a self-check and ask the Lord to change your heart and soften your heart for your child in that way, because it's an awkwardness that is really worth it when you have that intimate bond with your child as a parent and as that trusted source.
There's arguably nothing more important that you can equip your children with in our world today than sex and
Yeah.
sexuality.
Yeah. Yeah.
Loving Jesus, number one. Number
Yeah.
two might be right there.
Right. Truly, it has become, unfortunately, at the top of the list.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Nick, this has been amazing. Tell us how we can get this incredible map you've created at thesextalk.com. What are they
Yeah.
gonna find when they go to the website?
So the sextalk.com is 14 sessions. It's a state-of-the-art video course. As you mentioned, it's super simple, super interactive. If a parent decides to just, instead of watching Netflix for 2 weeks, just do that for 2 weeks, you could be done
Come
with it.
on.
It'll give
Invest
you
in your children, invest in
invest
your
in your
kids.
children. I did take the liberty of creating a coupon for your listeners. So if they
Oh,
use
great.
coupon code Elizabeth Johnston, they'll get
Okay.
25% off.
Wow.
And we just want parents to know, like, the lie is popping into your head right now as you're listening.
Yeah.
I still have time. I still have time.
Mm-hmm.
You don't. We gave you the easy button. Lean in. If you have questions, reach out to me. We're all over the internet. If you're struggling with pornography right now and you need help, guess what? That's what we do for a living too. But man, we want to see an entire generation transformed. Let's see a
So
revival
good.
of sexual integrity throughout the entire bride of Christ.
So good. And this affects so many areas and facets of our society. Brokenness in sex leads to gender confusion. It leads to abortion. It leads to human trafficking. I mean, pick an ill in society, and this is at the root of it. And if we cannot invest a tiny little bit of money and a tiny little bit of time in the big scheme of things to get this right, Lord help us, have mercy on us. Our priorities are just in the trash. So how much is the program?
So it's $99 a year. We made it as cheap as physically
99,
possible for your
25% off.
guests.
So
It's
this is gonna be
75 bucks a year.
$75, guys. This is so worth it. I cannot emphasize how much I want my community to avail yourselves of this. And as he said, put in the code Elizabeth Johnston and boom, you get $25 off. So Nick, thank you so much for being on the podcast and for all that you're doing for our children. We really appreciate it so much.
I was so honored to join you, Elizabeth. I am honored by what the Lord is doing through your ministry, and so I'm just here to support you every step of the way. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nick. You don't want to miss out on my weekly blog articles that cover current events and topics that are important to families. Go to my website, elizabethjohnston.org, and subscribe to my newsletter. We have built an incredible community of 80,000 families, and I don't want you to miss out. There is no cost, so go to elizabethjohnston.org/subscribe. There's never been a more important time to teach our children the sanctity of human life. Get my illustrated pro-life children's book, Little Lives Matter, at my website, elizabethjohnston.org.